So characters like the Goonies, the Wicked Witch of the West, Beetlejuice, heck, you could even throw the Gremlins in there, Gizmo and Stripe. Those are the type of characters that do not belong in multiverses. Okay. Before you grab those pitchforks, let me explain. That's the topic of the video that we're going to be discussing, okay? That's not my personal opinion. No. My opinion is much different than that. But that's the topic that I'm going to try to be tackling in today's video. So if you're a part of the Multiversus community, and I'm sure most of us are if we're watching this video, then there's a good chance you've seen the kerfuffle that's been going on lately with the community in terms of the Goonies and Wicked Witch. I'm going to call them legacy characters for the sake of this video, so I don't have to keep repeating their names over and over. So there's been a big kerfuffle over these legacy characters. And what's being discussed is these legacy characters, what do they even deserve a spot on the roster, and why are we continuing to hear about more and more and more of them? Where are the highly requested characters, right? So I think that's kind of a fair point, and I want to look at this topic from kind of both sides. Why it's kind of a negative to have so many of these legacy characters, why I think I got a decent point to make at least, but then I want to look at the other side and like, hey, there's a reason they need to be considered and why they deserve a spot as well. Because if you want to talk about 100% of the topic, but you only focus on 50%, you're never going to get the whole picture. You're leaving out half. So let's try to look at it from both sides, shall we? So again, first things first. These legacy characters, there's only a very minute, a very small portion of the Multiversus community that's even talking about these characters, let alone requesting them. So when these data miners dig into the game and they find, hey, here's a string for the Goonies, and here's something about the Wicked Witch from Wizard of Oz, here's Beetlejuice, there's going to be a decent sized portion of the community that's going to look at these characters and go, nobody's asking for these characters. I don't want them. Where's the highly requested characters? Well, how do we know who is the highly requested characters? I think that's a fair question. Luckily, we have an answer on that. So there's a tweet from Tony Wynn back in April. Don't have it in front of me, but I will put it up on screen, so I got to paraphrase just a little bit here. But it says something along the lines of, we want the community to be involved with picking the roster. As of right now, we're going off of this fan-made ballot that was posted on Reddit. Now, this tweet was from April, and if I'm remembering correctly, the ballot on Reddit was actually a few months before that. So if Tony and his team were, even before April, they were looking at this and gathering data, seeing who the highly requested characters are. So I will have the link to this poll in the description if you want to check it out after the video, because there's a lot of different topics or a lot of different categories of characters. They break it down by DC heroes, DC villains gets their own category, early Cartoon Network characters, mid Cartoon Network century characters, the Watchmen. There's a lot of different categories. It's actually kind of a cool list that was compiled. But the point is, these legacy characters are not even close to ranking anywhere near the top of their respective categories. Why do we keep hearing about them more and more from the data miners? Why is Player First Games continuing to add these characters that nobody's requesting? I think that's a fair thing. If they're not being requested, they shouldn't be in the game, especially with that tweet that we just shown from Tony, where he said, hey, we want the players to have a voice in the roster. Well, our voice kind of seems, shall we say, ignored if we're not seeing the ones we are requesting. So, for example, I know the tweet's out there. I will try to look for it and put it up, but if I can't find it, basically Tony has told us, it was either Tony or ResLived, one of the other devs, kind of told us that characters can get into a working condition, not anywhere near finished, but they can get a character into about a working condition in about 3 to 4 weeks. Okay, so if this tweet from Tony was back in April, we'll just say April for the sake of argument. You have April, May, June, July, August, September, October, half of November, but we'll take that away for now. So they had 8 months to gather data from this fan-made poll on Reddit to see who the highly requested characters are. So that means that even at 4 weeks of developing, getting a character into a playable state, at 4 weeks of that, I mean, that's 8 characters, right? 8 weeks, 4 weeks, roughly a month. So 8 months, 8 characters. So why haven't we started seeing some of them pop up? Where are they? Why are we getting these characters that are not being requested? That's kind of, I think that's one of the big issues with these legacy characters. We're not asking for them. Stop giving them to us. In a sense, stop giving them to us so frequently, because I think that's another thing. If you spread them out at least, then it's not that big of a deal. But if we want characters A, B, C, D, and E, but you're giving us W, X, Y, and Z back to back to back to back, then it's like, hold on, now we're not even being listened to anymore. And that could frustrate a lot of people. That will make certain individuals drop the game entirely and never want to come back, because it's like, hey, you told us you were listening to us, but you're clearly not. So why should I have hopes for Daffy Duck? Why should I have hopes for Ben 10? Why should I have hopes for Godzilla? Okay, Godzilla is a third party, so not the best example, but you get what I'm saying. First party characters that we're asking for and we're not getting, I feel ignored. So I'm not going to play this game anymore. I don't want to give it support. That's where people are coming from, right? So that's kind of the negative. Stop giving us what we're not asking for. But on the other hand, these legacy characters are still deserving of a spot. 100%. Just because they might not be relevant currently doesn't mean that they don't have fans. Doesn't mean that people aren't attached to these characters. Doesn't mean they're not deserving. Because at one point, something like the Goonies was absolutely huge. Everybody knows the Wicked Witch. Is anybody requesting her for a playable character in a platform fighter? Probably not. But the Wicked Witch still has a very, very notable name. Everybody knows the Wicked Witch, right? So when you bring these characters, it's more of a talking point for legacy type character that's kind of like, yo, they went and got this character. So not only do these legacy characters keep the roster, in a sense, feeling fresh and different, they give a different vibe, right, when they come into the game. And we get to show them these old school characters, these legacy characters. We get to show them love again, because they're just like the people that are growing up in today's era. They are attached to who they're attached to. In 20 years, you're going to look back and go, that was my character. And in 20 years from now, we're going to go, oh, these new characters absolutely suck. Nobody wants these. That's how we're looking at it right now. So people like myself that grew up in the 80s, yeah, I was born in the 80s for about a month and a half, but I was still born in the 80s, raised in the 90s. There's a lot of that stuff that I'm personally attached to, and I'm like, oh, see, that stuff is cool to me. This new age stuff, it might be cool, but I like my nostalgia stuff. Can we get some of that? So that's kind of where it's coming from. So legacy characters can appeal to older audiences, which is not a bad thing at all. It keeps us on our toes. It keeps the roster feeling fresh, like I said. And it allows, like, the characters themselves to feel special and unique. When you take somebody that you don't expect, that you think has no chance, and then they become playable, sure, they might not be highly requested or even talked about, but when you add them to the roster and you go, wait a minute, this is like extremely unique. We have nothing like this on the roster. So when you take something, dare I say, out of obscurity, I don't mean that in a bad way, but when you take it from somewhere that's, being collected dust in the corner for the last couple decades, and you're like, hey, playable character, there will be people that go, yeah, not for me. But when you get them into the game and you get to actually play and try as them, that's the beauty of these legacy type characters, because you go, okay, I don't know who they are, but their play style is actually pretty fun because they give us something we don't have. And I think that's something Player First Games hasn't gotten a lot of props for. At least I haven't seen it personally. The uniqueness and the freshness of every fighter. They all feel different to each other from one another. Nobody really feels the same as somebody else. Granted, we only have, is it like 17 or 18 characters currently on the roster? Does Marvin make 18 or no? Whatever it is, they all feel and look different. Nobody feels like anime swordsman number 75, okay? We're not going down that road. So the uniqueness characters, the way Player First Games is designing these characters, so you can take your Iron Giant, by the way, who's one of the most unique fighters, if not the most unique fighter in platform gaming history, simply due to the size of him. Now, you could say if he's balanced or not, that's not what we're talking about, but the uniqueness of a giant character, that's never really been done before. That's a cool thing to add to a game. Then you got other legacy characters that are already in the game, Gizmo and Stripe. Maybe nobody ever expects them, but they play so differently. They make things more fun. Now, I'm not a fan of Gizmo. I still haven't seen Gremlins, but I really like Stripe. Not just because he's OP, but he's got the play style that I kind of gravitate towards, as personally. So that's something that comes along. Sure, I'm not asking for the character, but I go, oh wait, he's kind of fun, so I want to keep playing him. So that's a good addition, and I think that's the point for Legacy. You gotta give him a chance before you just go, who? I haven't heard of this character from the 1980s. Nobody knows who that is. Actually, yeah, a lot of people grew up with these characters. A lot of people fell in love with these characters. And if they come into Multiverses as a playable character, we get to kind of relive these happy memories, the nostalgia. We get to relive all of that. And now we get to think about these fond memories and then play as them in a platform fighter where we can fight Batman, who can fight Shaggy, who can fight Bugs Bunny. That's a cool feeling, man. That's a cool feeling. The roster is and always needs to be special. Sure, you can get your most wanted characters, right? If Multiversus comes out and goes, here's your top 5 most wanted characters from the community, they're all gonna be in. Then you're like, oh, that's great to hear. But then does it become a little predictable? You're like, oh, it's always a highly requested character. That's not a bad thing, but we want a little bit of spice every now and then. Mix it up. And I think that's kind of where these legacy characters are taking a lot of heat. There's a lot of them that continue to pop up back to back to back to back. Just spread them out. Spread them out, and I think this whole situation can really go away. Give us Black Adam. We already got him. Give us Marvin the Martian. Give us another, I don't know, I was going to say Looney Tune, but we're getting Marvin. So give us a DC character, which we got. Give us a Looney Tune, who's about to come out, and then give us another Cartoon Network character. And then you could go with a legacy character. Look at that, 4 different stages, 4 different categories of characters, and you're still spreading the love around. So just spread out the legacy character reveals and additions to the game, and I think this whole situation really dies down very quickly, and it's a lot more digestible for, well, most of the community, because it's not like we're getting all these characters nobody's asking for. Where's the highly requested one? So I think it's a learning process for player first games, right? Learning who to release, when to release. Should we release the same legacy characters back to back? Oh, that's not a good thing. Oh, should we have Bugs Bunny be tier 50 in the battle pass back to back? Oh wait, that's a bad idea. We shouldn't do that. So it's a learning process. Hopefully they are taking notes, and hopefully they are listening to the community. They've done a good job doing that. I commend them for that. So hopefully they can continue going down that road. But yeah, that's kind of my take on this topic. Do legacy characters deserve a spot in the roster? Absolutely. But also no. It's a weird thing. They definitely deserve consideration for the roster. I think that's the best way to put it. They absolutely 100% deserve consideration for the roster. Just because they're not relevant today doesn't mean people won't be drawn in by it, right? So either way, that's my take. Let me know what you guys think about this whole topic in the comments down below. Again, link to the description of the whole fan-made poll from Reddit. If you want to check that out, you can. Either way, that is going to be it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, enjoy your Friday, and I guess I'll see you when I'm looking at you.